Hello, I'm Heidi Smith. I am a therapist, herbalist, and flower essence practitioner, and I'm also the author of the upcoming Bloom book, A Flower Essence Guide to Cosmic Balance. It's going to be coming out in July, and I'm so excited to share it with you. And today I'm going to be sharing with you the process of making your own flower essence medicine by wildcrafting it. And this is something that I talk about in the book, but I'm just going to give you the brief overview so that you can make your own medicine. We are working on Pennacook and Abenaki land today. I am in Vermont under a beautiful crab apple tree. And if you're not familiar with what flower essences are, they are a type of plant and vibrational medicine that assist us in coming into greater balance, not only individually but collectively and with the earth. And you can commonly find them in bottles that look like this. You can take them orally under the tongue like that, but you can also make them into a mist. You can apply them to pulse points. There's different variations of how to apply them, and they're very safe. They are safe for if you're pregnant or breastfeeding. They're wonderful to use for children. They're great to use for animals. So I am working off the classical methodology of making your own medicine from Dr. Edward Bach, and he is known as the founder of flower essence therapy. And he was a physician practicing exactly this time 100 years ago, interestingly around the 1918 flu epidemic. And he was also working in the First World War. He was an immunologist and a bacteriologist, and he was also a homeopath. And he observed this relationship between people's personalities and how they healed, and also the illnesses or symptomology that was afflicting them. So he decided to explore this relationship in his work, and then it grew into understanding the relationship between the soul and how the soul evolves and healing. And he went on to create the 38 Bach healing herbs that we use today. And when we are wildcrafting, we want to be really responsible with this practice. And this means being aware of the social, cultural, and ecological implications of wildcrafting. And as a Western herbalist, I need to be aware of the history and ongoing problems around colonization and appropriation. This is obviously a much larger and more complex topic that I can get into today, but I went ahead and created a resource guide for you on my website. And I would encourage you to spend some time educating yourself on these issues. And you can find that at my website, which is moonandbloom.com. And when we're responsibly wildcrafting, we also want to be aware of sustainability and safety. So there's a few ways to do that. The easiest way would just to be aware of what plants are at risk and endangered. And the United Plant Savers has a really great resource that's regularly updated with what plants are at risk and endangered. And you can also know what plants are potentially poisonous by working with a wildflower guide such as Newcomb's. This is the one that I use because I'm in New England, but there are different guides for different regions. So let's get into the process. The tools that you will need, in addition to wanting to have a flower guide, you're going to want to have a glass bowl, a very simple glass bowl, no etching on it, very clean. You want some spring water out of a glass bottle, if possible, if you don't have spring water coming out of the tap. Not many of us do. I like to bring a journal with me so that I can jot down any of my impressions during this process. And the bottles that you will need, I like to use a 2-ounce bottle for the mother stock, and I've already poured about 1/3 of brandy in here. This is the preservative. And you don't have to work with brandy. You can work with apple cider vinegar or glycerin if you don't want to work with alcohol. And then you will want a smaller bottle, like a 1/2 ounce size, to store the stock. So I'll explain how that works in a minute. And I am not this is not the morning, but we are in the afternoon right now. That's really the only difference. You would want to be in the morning making your flower essence, because you want to access the dew that's on the plants. And dew is a very cosmic water source, and it has a lot of significance in the alchemical tradition, and flower essences are part of that alchemical tradition. And you can make flower essences in any kind of weather conditions, but early morning is best. And so before you set out to collect your flowers, and you've decided on a plant, perhaps it calls to you, you're curious about it, and you've determined that it's not poisonous or endangered. And if it is, you can just allow the bowl of water to be near those flowers. You don't actually have to pick them. You just allow the gesture of the plant to kind of go into the bowl of water. That's totally acceptable. So before I formulate, before I wildcraft, I like to close my eyes and ground and say a prayer. And then I get my bowl, which I've already filled with northern blue violets today. Those are the flowers that I'm working with today. And I've picked a number of these and put them in the water. And Bach would have wanted to fill the entire top with flowers, but I don't always do that. And I actually used a blade of grass to pick the flowers in this bowl, because everything that you're bringing into making your medicine has its own vibration. And so you want the purity to be of the highest level so that it can really highlight the power of the plant. So I asked permission to pick these flowers, and I then used this leaf to put them in the bowl. And the idea behind asking permission is also part of being responsible when you're wildcrafting, because the plants might not want to work with us, and that's okay. And this might sound silly, but if you are connected to, attuning with the plant, it'll let you know if it doesn't want to be picked right now. And if that's the case, then you can come back to it later perhaps, or move on to another plant. So you have your plants, you have your flowers in the bowl, and you're just going to put those in the water, and you're going to put those in the sun, and you're going to let them solarize in the sun for about 2 or 3 hours. And if you're picking them at the height of their bloom, which you want to do, they'll be nice and hardy, and so they'll be able to sit in that sun for a while. Bach did have a boiling method that he used for some of the plants and the trees that he used, but this is the solar method that I like to work with. And so now you have your medicine in the sun for a couple of hours, and I like to meditate during this time. Sometimes I'll lie down and take a nap, and you'll go into a very relaxed state, and you might get intuitions or guidance or some other kind of wisdom coming in through the plant or the land where you're working. And this would be a good opportunity to write that down in your notebook. And so after the end of the 2 or 3 hours, we're then going to begin taking the flowers back out of the water. And we're just going to give these, I'm going to pick it up a different. We're just going to give these flowers back to the earth because they don't need to be in our medicine. So we're just gently allowing the flowers out of the bowl, saying thank you. And you really want to minimize your finger making contact with the water, because again, we want this to be as pure as possible. So now all of the flowers are out of the bowl. And we're going to pour the water into the bottle. It's okay if it spills out. And I always like to treat myself to a little bit of the flower water. Pour the water back to the earth. So any water that's left over, just pour it back to the earth. And then we're going to, I like to just swirl it clockwise and counterclockwise 3 times. And I say a little prayer. And I ask for it to be purified and blessed. And then I will sit it in the sun for about an hour to cure. So we'll put that over there. I think I forgot to mention that you only want to work with flowers that are abundant. I work by the rule of 4, which is a rule that a lot of flower essence practitioners and herbalists work with. So if there's 4 of something in nature, you can pick 1. Again, want to make everything sustainable. So now this has been sitting in the sun for an hour, and this is your mother stock. This is going to stay potent forever. And you can make as many stock bottles out of this as is in this bottle. So you would take 7 drops of this and put it into a bottle this size, and then this would be your stock bottle. And this will stay active for 10 years. And then when you have your stock bottle, you can take this and make a dosage bottle out of it. So mother, stock, and from the stock bottle, you make your dosage bottle. 7 drops into this, and then 7 drops into your dosage bottle. And that is how you make a flower essence. So I hope that this was fun and interesting and useful for you. If you have more questions or curiosities about how to work with flower essences and all of the magic that they hold for us, I encourage you to check out my book. And this is such a powerful time to be making medicine, especially if you have access to working with plants in nature. And I would also encourage you to think about if you do have the opportunity to work with plants in nature, to how to make your medicine accessible for people that might not. So it's been really wonderful to share this with you today, and I hope that you will consider my book as a resource for you if you are interested in learning more about flower essences. Thank you so much. Take care.